What's going on, everyone? This is a stream of sorts, late evening, me gathering my thoughts. Let me get my water bottle ready just in case. And I'm at my garage. So this stream's going to be a little rough. I'm sorry about that, but I hope you enjoy the content. I got to talk politics. I'm going to be kicking out with Trump. I got to talk about this Oliver Anthony guy. I want to weigh in on the GOP debates and the reason why we don't need primaries. And just the book ended with politics in general. Like why I hate it, because that's what all this is. That's a good way to summarize the theme of all these 3 points. But of course, we got to address the first and foremost, the biggest news probably in history. That not that Trump hasn't been indicted. This is his 4th indictment. But did you have to do a mugshot? Did you know what that was gonna do? When you thought you were gonna humiliate the guy? Are you kidding me? It's the mugshot heard around the world or seen around the world. I kept saying, if anybody tries to get his mugshot, all they're doing is just giving free campaign fodder. It was going to be like a plastered on mugs and really mugs, T-shirts and all that. You know how much money both the haters and the supporters are going to make out of this, not to mention Trump himself. You're giving them free promotion. What were you thinking? So the first 3, I'm like, free. The first 3 indictments and the arraignments. When Trump was arrested, they didn't do any of the, that supposed formal processing. So when the sheriff in Georgia, Fulton County, Georgia, announced that they were going to do that, I'm like, you know what you're doing here. Declaration of Memes had a real good shot. It's going to look a little shiny here. So this one is Trump supporters, Trump haters loving his mugshot. Exactly. All these right-wing influencers, all these left-wing accounts that were just tweeting or retweeting or Xing. I don't know how that works now. But the point is they were posting his mugshot, like celebrating it. And the other side were just having a field day with it. Shirts were available almost instantly. I mean, freaking Abe, that fake mugshot that came out first was so good. I'm like, people even doubted the real one. And some of them 24 hours later are kind of still doubting it. But like, are you sure this is the real mugshot? I mean, it looks like Trump slimmed down. Did the camera shave off some weight because he was a little different than when Trump came out of the courthouse to talk to the press for a little bit before going on Trump Force One and leaving? But the point is that, what did you think was going to happen? It's the mug shot scene around the world. I don't remember a more lit time on the internet since the last indictment. But seriously though, because the mug shot is just, it dwarfs all the other news. But most importantly is the historical significance of this banana republic moment that we've been living in. That just because you questioned an election, but doesn't apply to Stacey Abrams or any other Democrats that have questioned every election where Republicans won in at least 20 years, 23 years. I mean, since the year 2000, 2004, not so much, but 2004, I mean, it was kind of hard for them to deny that one. But 2016, these things are Democrats have done all the time. But God forbid a Republican do it, especially if it's Trump. So the historical significance of the moment is the reason why I'm doing the stream, because I wanted to commit my thoughts to memory here. And this is why I'm not in the studio. This is the worst setup I can probably do, but it's just the content of it. And I want to commit my thoughts to this because I'm not going to forget this, that this happened in my lifetime, where a sitting president being brought up on frivolous charges that hold no legal basis whatsoever, but also having to arrest the lawyers representing it. If you don't understand the significance of this lawfare, the weaponization of the Department of Justice and all that, for what is happening here right before our eyes, and you don't understand a thing about anything, that's how much social media has fried your brain. If you expect a 15-second TikTok to explain it to you, I'm sorry, you are so uneducated and misinformed. And that's the whole point. That's how the big tech, that's how these a lot of these politicians, not just Democrats, want you to be. They want you to be low information, so you can vote based on low information, so they can get you to vote how they want you to vote. It's all part of the plan. These are all this chaos. And these agents of chaos are quite literally laughing all the way because you fell right into their trap. Do you know what you're doing? Scaring away anybody trying to represent legally, be any legal counsel for Trumps and the likes. So if anyone tries to question any narrative, they're going to punish those that have the legal representation to do so. As of right now in California, that's where John Eastman, I think is his name, that was Trump's personal attorney, if I recall, because there were two attorneys, one for the Trump camp and one for Trump personally. John Eastman was one of them. And they're trying to get his license, his attorney's license, disbarred here in California. This is happening as we speak. This is crazy. Just because, like, hey, we don't like him because he represented someone that we don't like. And people are asleep to this because Trump's personality just rubs me the wrong way. Dude, I don't care. Bring back mean tweets if it freaking means cheaper everything, okay? And not have new wars. That's the stupidest argument that anybody could ever make because, again, some of these folks absolutely love Dr. House when they're watching him, but hate it when he's their doctor. So, yeah, but he gets results. All I got to say is if you're not informed about what's entirely happening with Trump and how the election interference is happening, if you don't know a lick outside of what the big media corps tell you, you're an uninformed or misinformed voter, and all you're doing is canceling the informed vote of somebody else. I don't think you should be allowed to vote. In fact, voting should be a privilege, not what a so-called right is. You have to be informed on what you're doing because that applies to local. Local is the most important thing, not just the presidential, not just at the national level when it comes to our senators and Congress members. What happens locally at the state and our counties and our municipalities, it's what affects us the most and the one that we ignore all the time. So anyway, don't want to get into that all that much or else I'm going on and on. But all I got to say is get learned. And it takes a lot more time this time to get learned because of how the flow of information is controlled. But you got to do some legwork. Don't just rely on stuff just being spat to you. You got to do some homework. And hopefully you also get discernment along with it. So anyway, Oliver Anthony, I want to get to this guy before touching on the RNC and then wrapping up with why I hate politics. So Oliver Anthony, the right-wing influencers have been tweeting this guy, have been posting him across social media, singing the praises of this song. The RNC GOP debates was even playing his song, like it was like a freaking music awards show or something. It's like, and I can tell you, I haven't heard that song. I probably heard like the 5 seconds that any clip that auto plays on social media puts up, and I just skip it. Not to say that I wouldn't be interested in the song. I'm sure it's a really good song for those that enjoy it, but I haven't, so I can't tell you that I like it. All I can tell you is this. I refuse to jump on the bandwagon for anything that happens as viral because I don't know if it's real or if it's manufactured. That's what tends to happen, you know? So how are you feeling, conservatives? Do you feel happy that Oliver Anthony is pretty much saying, hey, I'm not like you guys. I'm singing about you guys. So Oliver Anthony is not upset at Rolling Stone coming at him. He is upset that conservatives support him. And because of that, and because the song was played at the RNC, he gives his teary-eyed video that I did watch. I saw a snippet of it. The section where he's talking about he never thought his song would be weaponized in that way. Hold on, these are people who are supporting you from those that were trying to cancel you. They made your song #1 in the charts, and your thank you is, I sang about you. This is why I hate politics, folks. This reminds me exactly of that Marine, Stuart Scheller, was it? He's the one that criticized our tactics or strategies in Afghanistan about 2 years ago or whatnot, and he ended up being court-martialed and thrown in prison because, as an active duty, I think he was a colonel or something, lieutenant colonel, in the Marines, when he did that, he was criticizing his leadership. He was thrown in prison for that. And what happened was the conservative base, Trump supporters even, collectively gathered funding to bail him out. And Stewart said, I don't want your money. Because he's so anti-Trump. This is just that. It's like, isn't this what happened with Oliver Anthony? It's like, look, good on you. You got a viral hit. If it's real, fantastic. Or was this all manufacturers? You get a recording deal. Look, I'm not a big fan of Cernovich. I have some criticisms against the guy. Sometimes I feel he's all over the place, but I like him better than Ian's Michael Chong, who is in some other part of the world that he's not even here, but he weighs on politics as if he lives here. Anyway, I don't want to get on to that. But all I could say is that I really liked Mike's takes on these things with Oliver Anthony in this evening, because that's the stuff. That's how it popped up. Someone retweeted him that I follow, and then like, well, I don't follow Cernovich, but it just popped up, and so I started reading his threads. Like, oh, yeah, I agree here. He's being very ungrateful. And I totally agree there. But I also agree with the assessment that maybe a record label got to him because he was able to ink something out of this. And conveniently now is when he starts going against those that help propel him here. Well, all I could tell you is if you secured your money, don't be Bud Lighted so early. Because if you don't have a contract, dude, your career is just about over. Like dead on arrival. You're a one-hit wonder, and people will forget you, just like people forgot about Stuart Scheller, but I didn't. I remember that moment because that's the problem with any influencer. But that's one thing I have wholeheartedly against some right-wing influencers, just go with the flow. And YouTubers too. It's not just right-wing influencers, but YouTubers. Like suddenly, like people are talking about like these established titles stuff, talking about these Kamakoto knives or whatever the heck they are. Like, the heck is all this? And all of a sudden, all at the same time, hey, I call out the Freedom Phone. I had to go up against my own site for that. And I was called a traitor. I was called a liberal. And I was called everything. I was being thrown under the bus by those on the right. And I don't care. I've been criticized my entire life. So nothing they said could offend me. But the thing is, I was right. And I went up against Candace Owens and I got her to respond. And I was proven right. And now I'm upset at her husband because of what he did to Parler. So, yeah, I don't trust. I have a general mistrust of just about anybody that's gotten really big. Because when they're smaller, you're willing to risk more. And look, I get it. As also as a business owner myself, I get it. When you've gotten big enough where now you're responsible for many other people, you're willing to take less risks because that's just your neck on the line. It's the livelihood of a bunch of other people that depend on you. I understand that. And that's the problem where some people feel like it looks like they sell out because of that. But it entirely is the problem when you're swept away with viral stuff. It's like, look, it went viral, but will you look into it? Please look into it. Which leads me, conveniently, to the RNC. There's a guy that I follow across every social media platform that I'm on. And if he's there, I follow him. And that is DC Drano. Ronan O'Hadley, I think is his official name. I follow him because his takes are on point for me. And I was actually very interested in seeing, because he went on a debate that Candace Owens hosted. So credit to Candace for that. When that clip appeared on my feeds and I ended up watching it. And I think that was actually pretty good for the segment that I saw, but that was the only segment that I saw. And DC Drano was holding him to task. And I think Vivek was right. In the debate, like Vivek came across as the more, I would say he won the debate because DC Drano looked like he was misinformed. He was just writing on the coattails of some post that he saw on social media instead of actually going to the source, such as the book, actually reading the books instead of just those little excerpts that we all in politics should know that there's an excerpt. It's probably missing the context. You got to read the context before making that a thing. So it looked like DC Drano was not informed when he did that. Then the RNC debates happened, the GOP debate. So when that happened, and DC Drano, along with who else was saying this? Someone said that don't believe the snake oil salesman. And I don't mean Chris Christie, who was just trying to insult everybody so make it look like he's tough and relevant or whatever, despite the fact that the dude's career is going nowhere. it actually stood out to me. And DC Drano has doubled down since then. In the past 48 hours, he's been hitting Vivek hard for the George Soros ties, for the ties to Big Pharma, but mostly because you're just repeating the talking points that will get you the cheers and the likes on social media from the right group that can support you. But I still think that, hey, Vivek deserves some credit for standing up and being the only one who would dare say, hey, I will pardon Donald Trump if he's voted in president. It doesn't matter what the outcome is yet, that we don't know about the indictments and all that, because the trials haven't happened yet. But Pence making like, oh, we're going to look at it later. Say, no, the point is when you commit to it. And Vivek saying, yeah, I will, and nobody else was willing to do that. So I give him credit to where credit's due, and actually being just that image alone of Vivek raising his hand and Ron DeSantis looking around and then kind of raising his hand, that right there just about destroyed Ron DeSantis' optics. It looks bad. Even Matt Walsh, who suffers from TDS, even he pointed it out on Twitter X or whatever it is. They said, not a good look at all. Now, with respects to who won the debate, I did tune into it. I wasn't in a rush for it. I have a life. I don't need that because I'm voting for Trump. But I wanted to see where things lie. And when you have the New York Post saying, oh, it's the right stuff because they're cheering this on, it's like, look, it's not working. Okay, look what happened just 24 hours later when Trump had his mugshot go across the internet. He's unstoppable. When even Time magazine with that roller coaster cover, it's telling you who wants to be in second place to Trump in all this. That's literally what it comes down to. But the GOP just wants Trump to be just taken off the board so they can, all right, so which of our establishment candidates can we put in place so the delegates will be forced to vote for one of these? And they all want Ron DeSantis, but even as they were kind of walking it back just after seeing his campaign implode. And so that's where all this is headed. It's they're counting on the indictments and the trials to just be a distraction to make Trump run out of money. He's not, when he's got that army of supporters that will financially support him. He's not going anywhere. And you just made him an even richer man with that mugshot shirt. So it's just like, yeah, when are you going to finish making this guy run out of money? Man, it's not going to happen. So don't take another mugshot of him. Just don't do it, because there's another indictment, I know. How many is he going to get before this is done? Maybe more than Tom Brady has won Super Bowls, probably. It is nuts. But when it comes to the debate, and I did tune into it, like I said, Vivek hit all the right points if he wants to appease the MAGA crowd. Ron DeSantis did have a little bit of the thing that kind of made him really popular. Look, as a Californian, anybody to the right of Gavin Newsom is attractive to be governor here, okay? But I'm not going to stand here and say that Ron DeSantis is a bad governor. I don't live in Florida. If anything, Florida, along with Kristi Noem's Dakota, I don't know if it's north or south. What's the other one? Masters? Is he in South Carolina? Whatever it was. Where they ranked the best governors during 2020. But that doesn't mean that Ron DeSantis didn't have his issues that he's not pretending that weren't there, that didn't exist. And it's like, wow, we're rewriting history here, aren't we? Because I have receipts too. The ones that I thought I admired, I'm like, hey, what's going on over here? Why are you going to force these businesses to close if they don't comply with what you're telling them to do? So you're not mandating on an individual level these things. You're mandating the businesses to enforce it for you. That's kind of what the federal government was getting at, forcing businesses to enforce the policies. They couldn't do it on an individual because of the Bill of Rights. But anyway, that's really all I got to say, other than how I'm end capping all this. I hate politics. I talked about the Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump before it was even a thing. This was back in 2020, at December 2020, or 2021, one of those two. No, it was 2021, sorry. December 2021, just after Christmas. I had a recording session with William Hall from the William Hall Show. And there's a segment of it that didn't make YouTube and everywhere else. It's making the rounds now because I'm allowing it to be in other more freedom facing platforms aside from YouTube, like Rumble. And that's where it was a segment about the election, the integrity thereof, and all that. And we talked about Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump. If this becomes a thing, that it will fracture the base. And honestly, it should be a foregone conclusion that we should just rally behind Donald Trump in that case. I was making the case that Donald Trump shouldn't run because of all the obstacles that we put in place by his own side, not the Democrats, his own side. On top of that, having the systems in place that we have issues with that's made us question the integrity of election 2020 that are still in place, then we have to ask, then what is the point? Because, yeah, you can fire up the fan base to want to turn out the votes, but they're like, but what's the point of voting if my vote's not going to count? How many of them are not going to turn out anymore? See, you have to have a better strategy than just talking about the rigging of the election. You have to talk about, like, okay, how do we game the system then? Because it's rigged against us. If there's no strategy for it, then I'm sorry, then what is the point of voting if the results will just be the same? So if Trump loses again this time, does that mean this time it was stolen? Was it legit? Or we're going to question every single election ever, even if it goes our way? You know, that's what I mean. This is where politics all comes into play, because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, and there's no way that you can come out with the right answer on any of this. And the worst part is, it made Ron DeSantis fall off that podium or that pedestal that a lot of others looked to see, like, hey, you could carry this torch after Trump. I mean, the guy literally looked at Trump 2.0 without that the attitude that people that want to support Trump that are turned off by his behavior or his attitude, whatever. Well, Ron DeSantis has everything that Trump has in the positive without the attitude. He takes it to the media. He's taking it to Disney. He's taking it to CRT. That's what they always say. That's what they always say. They said other people have said. It's always other people. I can't do a Trump impression. I shouldn't even try. But the thing is, the mannerisms, the speech patterns and all that Ron DeSantis had, they were eerily similar to Trump. It's like, hey, are you mimicking him? It's just how convenient that you distance yourself away as much as possible months before your announcement, and anybody paying attention knew what you were up to. I mean, even your opponent, Ron DeSantis, for your governor's re-election, which was a runaway hit no matter what, even he had to call you out. It's like, you're really the president. Why don't you just admit it? The rules were changed in Florida to allow him to run and not resign. But what was the point if Ron DeSantis is not even governing Florida right now? He's been everywhere but Florida. It's just not a good look. So anyway, the establishment was able to get to him sometime in 2022 early on. And I guess the promise of the indictments being able to take out Trump from the board, making Ron DeSantis the front runner, and then Ron DeSantis' campaign imploding, Vivek coming out ahead of him on some polls. It was just looking horrible, and it looks like maybe I haven't seen him, but it's assumed because some of the influencers in the Trump and the DeSantis camp were giving the win to DeSantis, and most of everybody was in the Vivek wanted. But those that are paid attention is like, Vivek could be a snake oil salesman. He's saying all the right things. We've seen this game before. You will not trick me again. Ron DeSantis, on the other hand, is like, yeah, you came out strong on certain positions and you look really bad on some other things. And the optics of this just look all wrong when the other dude was like this. It's just those things people are not going to forget. Your forced smile, manufactured even. It just doesn't look right. And the pictures of the makeup being put on during the breaks, during the commercial breaks, look, it just all looks awful, okay, for him optically. And it shouldn't have come to this. We shouldn't be at this point. That's why I said it in my conversation with William Hall in that episode, which I'll probably leave a link in the description down below wherever you're watching. It's just a small, I clipped it out because I said it shouldn't be that. They want us to be divided, and it's working. And just like those in the DeSantis camp are saying that the Trump supporters are going to cost us the election, yeah, so will you DeSantis supporters if, like, will you want Trump to get behind the candidate that he doesn't get a nomination or he's arrested and he can't run for whatever reason? It's like, look, I know that Trump will probably do that. He probably won't support Ron DeSantis. It's just that, come on, Trump is the nominee, whether the Republican establishment likes it or not. The thing is, the other way, I've seen some of these DeSantis supporters. Like, you guys aren't going to vote for Trump no matter what. You rather vote for a freaking Biden? Really? It's like, how does that extreme work? I don't understand. You have that much disdain for the guy that you would ignore all this justice lawfare or injustice lawfare that's happening before our eyes? That's what's upsetting about it, because it's all politics, folks. And in the end, we're the ones that get stuck holding the bag and the bill. So we'll see how all of this ultimately plays out. But all I got to say is, man, it is going to be a wild ride, especially with, we'll see if they're trying to make us lock down and get mask up and get boosted, because, yeah, that worked the first time, right? My goodness. History repeats itself. And I posted this on social media. It's like, why are we doing this again? Oh, it's in the election year. Because, of course, in the case of California, we have mass mail-in, unsolicited mail-in voting. So, yeah, I have no hope for California in that case. But just know that I hate politics. Absolutely hate it. I don't like the GOP leadership. I'm friendly with grassroots here in Southern California, and I believe in them. And I intend to keep their feet to the fire should they ever get a little wayward. But right now they're trying to hold the GOP leadership in California's feet to the fire. Good on them. And I am considering some way, somehow, probably getting some local politicians on the program, particularly the Senate Minority Leader of California for the Republican Party. I might be able to get him on. We're trying to talk about the same thing. That's the insurance issue. But anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's just, again, evening thoughts. So thank you for seeing me ramble this long if you have. I'd appreciate it. And I will repurpose this for the audio, so you're watching this or listening to this, Spotify, anywhere else. I appreciate you. So I guess I'm going to leave it here. I guess nothing to say. Just like, share, subscribe, stay to know. Follow me across the socials at the Andres Segovia on Twitter, X _Andres Segovia. See you on the next one, everyone.